All right. It's always a pleasure when I have this next gentleman on the podcast, at least for me. I don't know about him, but just speaking for myself. And he's a veteran of the show, probably one of the leaders in appearances, if we're counting. And but it's been a little bit since we had him on, so I kind of reached out and said, Dr. Jim, I think we need to have you back on. It's been a little too long. So welcome, Dr. James Beckett, once again to Sports Card Nation.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure.
All right. Well, so listen, you do Sports Card Insights, a great podcast. I venture a safe guess. Most people in the hobby are familiar with it. It's short form. I've tried to get closer to short form. I'm not as good as you. You have a lot of episodes. I think you're into four figures now, if I'm not mistaken. Um, is it obviously you didn't know what necessarily exactly where it was going to go. The format's changed a little bit over the years. Is it, one thing I love about the show is I'm sure other people do share a lot of your personal insights in on hobby career and personal life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. You ever, when it's not a guest show, you ever press for topics or not really?
There is the greatest hobby in the world. Am I ever going to run out of topics? No. There's
Yeah.
too many interesting people, interesting cards, interesting shows, themes, and controversies and things like that. I try not to get into the controversies too much, but there's just too much going on, and that's wonderful. It's dynamic. So I'm talking about the good old days, but I'm trying to relate them to the new days, and it's been fun for me.
Speaking of controversy, right? I obviously the hobby is reflective of society, right? You turn on the news and all the bad stories lead off the broadcast. I think certain people in the hobby, maybe not me and you per se, but there's a high percentage of people in the hobby who like sort of that negative stuff or like see somebody outed or exposed or talked about. Like you, I try to keep it as positive as I can. I will talk about some some of the warts of the hobby, and you do as well. I think it's important. We can't act like that isn't happening. You ever is anyone ever critical that you may like? Hey, Doctor Jim, I don't think you do that enough. Do you ever get that sort of feedback, or not really?
That I'm not talking about enough bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like,
that's
do they
what
ever claim you, or maybe a better way to phrase the question: does anyone accuse you of like looking at everything through rose-colored glasses?
I hope so. I mean, again, you can look at the half empty, half full. I mean, there's so much good going on. The complaints are there's too many. The shows are too crowded, or prices are too high because there's so much demand and there's so many new collectors and there's too many kids. I don't think people are criticizing that, but it's there's a lot of good things happening. There's plenty to talk about. But we're conditioned by the network news and the other places where we get our quote unquote news. It's not even really news. It's more gossip sometimes, but
Yeah,
it's controversial topics get more attention than hey, say the hobby was up 10% last month. you know
yeah.
but if it's down 1%, oh, the sky is falling. Well, it's not.
We've seen, over the recent years, we've seen more athletes get involved in the hobby, celebrities. We've seen the hobby itself become more mainstream, get more news coverage on financial networks and on regular networks. Do you think there's good and bad to that both?
Almost all good. Almost all good.
Yeah,
There's some people that think if the hobby gets overheated, then it'll just drive up prices. But that's of the problems to have. More attention is way better than no attention or not enough attention. So we're getting a lot of media attention, and we just need to handle it. And police our own hobby. If there's bad apples, we need to get them out. There's mostly great people in this industry.
Yeah, we've heard certain people talk about regulation having whether it be a commission or something like you see maybe on the Wall Street side of things, someone that kind of oversees things, makes sure things are above board. I'm knowing you as I have over the years, I venture to say, guess that's nothing you would really want to see come into the hobby. Like you just said, you were like kind of police our own.
The only regulation I want is self-regulation. Now, if that doesn't work, and some important people get stung, yeah, the government could look into it because we're talking about some big bucks now.
Yeah.
And but like I agree. I said we should police our own. And my rule is I really want to do business with people that I like and trust and enjoy. And occasionally I'll buy something from somebody, but if it's face to face, that's a genuine interaction. I'd be leery of buying expensive cards from people I don't know without safeguards in place.
Yeah, no doubt. Speaking of cards, we see the wall behind you that I often drool over as I look at it. But is there? I know. I think I've asked you this in the past. Is it? Do you have every card you want necessarily, or is there stuff that you're still on the hunt for, or not really?
I have every card I really want that I had. I mean, I basically, John, I had that stuff before I started doing the price guides because my acquiring phase was before that. And so I got most of the cards that I wanted, and the other ones I didn't want it or that I didn't want as bad. I had a chance. Like I said, I was the underbidder on some really, really expensive cards, and I wish I'd have won now, but I'm not going to go back and I can't up that bid because the prices went up by 1,000%.
Yeah, and I know you said obviously because of your integrity and when you had back at the price guide and the company as a whole, you really kind of refrained from buying cards. But when you sold your company, was it kind of like game on again? Were there stuff? Did you have like a target list then, or did you really kind of, but like you said before you even started, you had a
Well,
lot of those things checked off?
clarify one thing is that, when I started the company, I really pulled back from being a dealer. It just wasn't, it was going to be a conflict of interest. But I did sell stuff, in advance, kind of advance. And so a lot of the sets that I had, I sold in order to fund the company and get it going. And so, because I didn't take a salary for a couple of years. But now going back and rebuying those sets at 1,000% just doesn't feel right. I used to have them. I loved having them. I sold them for a good cause, and I've still got so many great. I have more great cards than I can display. Let's put it that way. So, if I can keep reducing my collection by 1% a month in a few years, maybe I'll have a chance to think, okay, now I've got some room to fill in some gaps.
So you're see, I used to be a set guy, and then the smaller this room gets, the less of a set guy I am. So you don't have you've sold most of your sets. Would that be a fair statement?
That'd be a fair statement. But for example, when I sold my 48, 49 Leaf baseball set, I conveniently did not sell the Jackie or the
Yeah.
Satchel Paige or some of the other stars that I really thought I'm going to hold on to those. But I got rid of, not got rid of, I got a good price. Actually got a really low price. If you look at it, today's prices would have been much more, but I got fair prices for them when I sold them. And that's been, gosh, John, 40 years almost,
Yeah, it's
probably
crazy
40 years.
where the time goes. You just mentioned one of my favorite sets for obvious reasons, the 48, 49 Leaf set. We kind of now use both years. I know you've talked about it on your show. Some recent evidence in the Relief book has sort of uncovered stuff that shows it maybe being more of a 49 set. I don't think I've recently talked to you about it. I've talked to you about it in the past. Has your opinion changed on when that, what we refer to that set as?
My personal opinion is that uh, I think there's a lot of evidence now from Carl's father's diary that the cards were distributed in the spring of '49. But it does not negate the fact that there are 1948 copyrights on a lot of the cards, and that was the way the hobby accepted it. And it's the hierarchy of rookie cards in the 48, 49 area. Um, it's just so to straddle it as a 48, 49 set is an accommodation of the historical treatment of that set. Otherwise, Warren Spahn, his rookie card is 48 Bowman only,
Yeah, which
and
I
that's
actually
not what
have.
the hobby has accepted. They've accepted so for Spawn, they'll say it's a 48 leaf. That would make it come out, and it might have a 48 copyright on the back. So it's problematic. Back in the old days, you didn't have the ability to research it other than to look at the card and what did the card say, and a bunch of those, the 49 easier cards are not easy, but the non short printed ones, a lot of them have 48 copyrights.
Yeah, I've even heard people talk about, my guy's Jackie Robinson saying, well, if it's a 49, he has 48 issues, obviously different kind of like regional issues. Those would be like true rookies, bond bred, the thrills card, that sort of thing. Let's just say, like, all right, it's 49 leaf. To me, it doesn't change how I feel about the Jackie card as a now owner. In your mind, does any bloom come off that rose for you, or no?
No, I mean the other jackies you're talking about that are 48 and 47, those were either regionals
Yeah,
or not mainstream, widely distributed. They were pack pulled, but at least the sport thrills. So no problem. Again, Jackie's not the problem because he's got a 49 Bowman. If he had a
yeah,
48 Bowman, that'd be another story. But that 49 Bowman is a fabulous card too. 50 Bowman is a fabulous card. In
yeah.
fact, Jackie has. I know he's your guy, but he has no bad cards, John.
There, I know, and my
No
wallet. No,
bad cards. He has a
if
short.
any, if anything knows it, my wallet and bank account
Yeah.
knows it as well. Yeah, he's got great cards, and for those who try to put that run together, right? His career, unfortunately, was not long, but even though his career was short, it's still going to cost you a few bucks to acquire all those cards, and so it's no easy task, even though there's less to find, and but no, I'll answer my own question. To me, it's still a rookie card. It's obviously sitting behind me. I know it's behind you as well, and that whole thing hasn't really changed. My acquisition of it, the chase for it, when I finally decide to acquire, like all those are obviously fond memories and what have you. So, but it's interesting how some of the stuff has come to light now, and how people, if you do the research and the due diligence, how you can still find out stuff from 80 years ago at this point. It's kind of crazy. All right. Speaking of, let's talk about grading. Obviously, you started back at many moons ago. They're still around. You've got Collectors Universe acquiring SGC now over 2 years ago. I bulk sub for them. Not technically not any longer, as they announced that they are doing away with bulk rates. I'm still going to do it. Have to change my pricing structure. I expect to get less cards. There's been some content creation out there, Dr. Jim, about, is this when collectors kind of phases out or liquidates SGC and they no longer exist. I hope that's not the case from a personal relationship with them. But even besides that, I hope that's not the case. I mean, when we look at the grading card terrain, it's still really the big four, right? If you will, you got PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGC, and then you got a whole bunch of a lot of other companies. Do you see that changing much? What are your thoughts on what do you think might happen? Put on your speculator's hat with SGC. How do you've come from the corporate side and are familiar with how this works sometimes. What do you think happens here?
You don't have to be Nostradamus to predict there will be change in the future, John. I
Yeah.
just don't know what the change will be. But I mean, SGC is a really interesting opportunity, really, for PSA. I could see it either way, but I think SGC is a strong brand, and I'd like to see it live on. I'm perplexed why they would pull back from uh, uh, loyal bulk submitters like you. I think that's I'm not sure what's going on there, but a lot of the positives of PSA and SGC and Beckett, CGC, all of them, the bulk submitters, many of whom do several brands anyway, to make it work for the bulk submitters, I think is good business for the grading company. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe there's another shoe that's going to drop. I just don't know.
I'm going to be, I know they're a sponsor of the show, but as I told them when that went, like I'm still going to be very honest and forthright. And they said, by all means, I think you just said it. I agree with you, Dr. Jim. I think the bulk rate decision is going to lead into something else. What that something else is or looks like, yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. I hope it's not worst case scenario, like we both kind of mentioned that, um, you know, I've heard other people say, well, collectors bought SGC because they were sort of the biggest threat to PSA and to block fanatics from acquiring them and pouring some money into them to make a run at PSA. And now that they've done that, they can kind of phase them out and kind of do away with them. I get it and I don't get it at the same time because if you get rid of SGC, let's just say that's the call that they make. CGC are going to move up a slot for a slot that doesn't exist that goes away. That they're going to move up for not everyone loves PSA, and PSA's got to know that too. So I just don't know why. I'm sure there's smart people in that room, obviously, but I think if you do away with SGC, you're just opening up number two for someone else. And I mean, would you agree with that, or not necessarily?
Well, I'm not. You're giving a lot of what ifs. I would, if I were in charge, I'd be hard pressed to think that I want to give up on what I think is a strong brand of SGC. But PSA, that brand is expanding like crazy with
Yep.
having a whole bunch of submission centers. And so, maybe they announce that the PSA submission centers will also accept for SGC or that GameStop will also accept for SGC. But I just think I've listened to your podcast faithfully for all these years, and
I
you've been a
appreciate
very
that.
faithful supporter of SGC. And I think you're an ambassador for them, and it goes beyond them sponsoring your podcast. I mean, you're at the shows, you're representing them well. I don't know who made the decision to not do it that way because I thought it was working. I thought it was working.
Yeah, yeah. I guess maybe it comes down to the S with the two lines running north and south through it, right? And they're like, hey, we're giving these bulk a rate. Let's just decision They called me up directly. They were very, the person saddened by it. It wasn't a phone call that he wanted to make. He said as such, and he was very nice and polite, and said, "Hey, if you still want to do it and figure out, your own sort of charges,
Or
that's up to you."
you were cutting out. Were you saying that Peter Steinberg called you?
No, not Peter, but my rep that I deal with a lot
Okay,
on
but
the
I'm
boat.
just saying that whether it was Peter or your rep, I'm not sure they're the ones that made the call.
No, and listen, I'll say this:
I mean,
they're
made the
not.
decision, made the
Yeah,
decision.
yeah, they were not the ones to make the call. I'll go as far as to tell you that was relayed to me. They just said they are the sort of the messenger of bad news, if you will. And I could tell, I've talked to my rep so many times, Dr. Jim. I could tell in his inflection and his tone, like he really was saddened by having to tell that to me, and felt terrible. And it was wound up talking 30 minutes about that and other things, and it'll be interesting. While I don't like the decision, it's not something I would have wanted. What will be interesting, from a content creator's and it's just as a person in the hobby, to see how this affects, you know, their intake or what they get. Do they take a hit, or will it be business as usual? Like I said, I'm going to still do it and just adjust sort of my rates. And a lot of my clientele, Dr. Jim, say, "Hey, John, we'll pay a couple bucks more. Like we're okay. It's convenient for us," and that sort of thing. So, but I'm also not naive to know, am I going to get the same amount of cards? Probably not. I think those numbers will go down, but how much down? I guess that's the $1 million question, if you will.
I think all the grading companies probably now figured out that a lot of customers have loyalty to one, sometimes two of the grading companies. It's who they use. And unless a grading company makes them really, really mad, they don't like to switch. And so a lot of your loyal SGC customers are gonna they're they're probably going to still stay with SGC. There are people that grumble about PSA, but they still use them.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We'll see, we'll see. I don't know if you've heard this. I think it's kind of crazy. I'll get your take. We don't have to spend a ton of time. I read in more than one spot that a rumor is that GameStop is going to buy PSA from collectors. Number one, I didn't think they were for sale, and I just, when we look at GameStop, if you know GameStop's history, not a GameStop expert, but it wasn't very long ago they were in trouble. They were on the ropes and very close to getting knocked out. They've made a comeback. Kudos to their CEO and others in that company that sort of got them off that ropes and into a stronger position. But when I think of their history and then I hear, could they be buying PSA? I just scratch my head. I think that, to me, it's ludicrous. But we've seen crazy stuff in this hobby, Dr. Jim. Number one, I guess, have you heard this? And your thoughts on that potentially?
I've read about it as a possibility, as a kind of a rumor, as but here's how it could make sense that people haven't said is that if PSA wants to go public, there's two ways to go public. There's more than one way to go, but the traditional way to go public is to do an IPO, to go on the road, to get investors to underwrite your stock and to go out into the public market and see what happens. That's no fun. It can be lucrative. It can be, but it's always a pain for my buddies that have done that. The other way is to get acquired by an already public company and kind of like have a reverse merger. So if GameStop bought PSA, then they could rename it PSA or collectors. the price for PSA might be so high that they have controlling interest in the combined entity, and then they rename it Collectors because it's easy to rename a public company, and
Yeah.
the financials will look great because, like you said, GameStop for a while there was seemingly smoke and mirrors, and now they've made some good decisions lately. They had that all that GameStonk stuff that was going
Yeah.
on a few years ago, but PSA completely legitimizes them. And if PSA really is getting 1 million submissions out of GameStop last year, then that and Nat Turner's on the board, it's they're kissing cousins already. And so that would be a way for PSA to go public, and that would be a liquidity event for Nat and his other investors that they could cash out or let it ride with stock in the combined entity. So it's not outrageous.
Yeah, that's why I asked you the question because I felt it was outrageous, but after hearing that answer,
If
it
PSA
doesn't.
buys GameStop, they're taking GameStop, which is a public company, then back private. PSA wants to be public, I think, and they've got a great story to tell, and this is a way to have their cake and eat it too, perhaps. I'm just speculating, but it's speculating on speculation.
But they could go public without GameStop too. It's not like that's their only salvation.
Right, but like I said, to go separately, the GameStop, they maybe have proof of concept that this last year that
Yeah.
having whatever it is, 3,600 retail locations around mainly the U.S., I guess, is not a bad thing for, and the GameStop's getting more into cards, the buy sell trade aspect. Uh, that's, to me, it's not outrageous. And like I said, if PSA buys GameStop, they're taking them private. And if PSA really wants to go public, they'd be with a partner that they already know, and they'd be like partners. And I think PSA would be the senior partner. I don't know if their revenue is as much, but the PSA's profit margins are, I think, very strong, and their expansion story and their growth story is really strong.
All right. Well, you've sort of, like I said, when I read that, I thought this was insane. But hearing you explain it like that,
It's
that
just a
sort of
possibility.
made me, you got to look at the big picture.
Nat Turner's really smart. He's
Yeah.
really smart, and PSA has other really smart, big money investors behind him. They're not celebrity guys as much as they're really savvy, big picture investors that think in, if not billions, at least millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. And PSA has got a great story. So we'll see. We'll see.
So I'll sort of put you on the spot. We talked about the big four. Obviously, there are other grading companies, Forensic, Tag, many others. HGA still sort of around. Do you ever see a chance where a fifth grading company, an upstart, can crack, that big league, so to speak, or you think it's just you're dealing with entities that just have too much history to give up their perch?
No, absolutely. A fifth one could come in. A sixth one could come in. It's not what we're in the era of AI. As AI gets more and more powerful and more useful for everyday tasks, then there could be some new entrants in grading. And now they're going to have a trouble getting market recognition, but they're going to be able to put out a product at the same, or my guess is same or lower price. And the slabs will be, just as nice. There's already ones out there, John, and they're not terrible graders. They're just,
Yeah.
they don't have the secondary market results because people aren't willing to send big cards to them. But I think I think it's more likely than not that there'll be a fifth or sixth in the next few years, in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I
And
figured,
so that could also be a reason why SGC is reconsidering, or PSA is reconsidering, the grading landscape, because I think it will broaden, uh, and I think I'm aware of a brand new one that's on the horizon.
yeah. Yeah, I think I know. I think I know the one you're talking about. I've seen some stuff as well. Do you think Fanatics still wants to get in the grading space? And like, I don't want to see that because that's we talk about you when you started your company and you not buying cards of conflict of interest. I don't want a grading company also manufacturing cards and grading their own cards potentially. Do you think has that ship sailed? I mean, obviously we're speculating with the conversation. Has that ship sailed, and kind of your thoughts on a card manufacturer getting into the grading space?
I don't think it's as big a conflict as you think it is, but I will say this: I don't think Fanatics is in a big hurry to buy a grading company for the sake of buying a grading company. They've got their hands full with all the things they're doing, including the Fanatics Fest and all this stuff. They're doing a whole bunch of things, and they can work with any of the grading companies, whatever they want to do. So they're in a situation where, and John, I don't know that you've said this, but it's not like PSA got SGC without Fanatics. I mean, it's not like they scooped them. If Fanatics had wanted to buy SGC, they could have. I think
Well, I heard a
SGC.
rumor. Listen, I heard a rumor. Again, it's all who knows. Only the people behind closed doors know. I heard a rumor that Fanatics made an offer for SGC and was
Well,
rebuked.
okay, well, I'm just saying that
Yeah,
if Fanatics wants to buy your company in this industry, this 2025, if they want to buy your company, they can buy your company if your company's for sale. I
yeah,
think my old company, BGS, separately, or Beckett Media or Beckett Collectibles, I think is not for sale right now
yeah,
because they're working their growth story. But if they would be for sale, Fanatics could buy them. They have enough money to buy. They have enough money to overpay. So if Fanatics had wanted to buy SGC bad enough, they would have. And so either the value they weren't willing to overpay at that point, and maybe they thought, well, I'll increase my stake in CGC, or I'll wait for BGS to get more reasonable and being willing to be acquired, which I'm not sure they are willing to be acquired right
yeah,
now. And SGC, they wound up being with PSA, and I don't know if they got their price. Maybe they did, but I wouldn't be betting against, if Fanatics wants a company and somebody else wants a company. Fanatics has the ability to the highest bidder if they want to be, and they didn't want to be, John. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. So you think they just maybe just some feelers and testing
No,
dipping their
how many feelers the Fanatics has put out? It's well known. They've solicited every company in the industry of
yeah,
would you take every show promoter, every grader,
yeah,
any brand that Michael Rubin understands brands, the
yeah,
value of brands, and he won't mothball the brand. So I think they put out feelers to all these people. And if you're too hungry and say, oh yeah, we'd really like to be, well, then they're gonna make you a low offer, and you might take it.
yeah,
Um, but I don't think SGC was willing to take a low offer,
yeah,
and BGS certainly wasn't either.
yeah.
And
No,
all and the others I'm aware of that they've made offers to, they were feelers.
yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense, and it makes sense on their part, right?
PWCC. Do you think that went for a premium price? No, that went for the lowest price it would have gone for in its history. PWC was at the
Yeah,
lowest of the low when Fanatics swooped in, and voila, you have Fanatics Collectibles or whatever they're doing it. So PWCC, you know, that's they got that on the cheap because it had problems, but it had the structure that was there that they've been able to tap into. They're
Yeah,
savvy.
no,
They're very
I,
savvy, John. I wouldn't bet against them.
yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I agree with you. When you have that much power and influence, why not test the market and see what things are may or may not be available? Right? Doesn't really cost much, if anything, to do that. You sell cards, I sell cards. The COVID crescendo. It was very easy to do, and a lot of people came in and did that. A lot of new people. We're obviously on the other side of that. Well, on the other side of that now. Has that changed how you sell cards at all, or not really? Or maybe a better way to ask the question: is it harder to sell now because everything's not the Midas touch per se?
In my lane, it's not. I mean, basically, I'm in a situation where I'm realizing that the big fear before COVID was if cards went down significantly, there'd be such a huge loss of confidence that the hobby would not recover. And we found exactly that the market got overheated through COVID. The market went way up. It dropped substantially over whatever that was, 2022 or 2021. From the peak, it dropped substantially, and the Chicken Little, where the sky did not fall. And
Yeah,
so things are as strong. And if you look at the recent auction results, we're still setting record prices.
yeah, no
So
doubt.
I'm trickle down. I'm not playing in the six figure, five figure, maybe even four figure cards. Mostly, I mean, I just so I think the hobby's been strong throughout, uh, and consistently strong. Consistently strong, because the hobby is not just the glamour, $100,000 cards. But those
Yeah,
$100,000 cards, there were $1 million cards that now go for less than 500,000. And if you would have said that 10 years ago, they said the hobby could never recover from that. If somebody lost half their value for example, if there would ever be a Wagner card that went down in value, from the same copy, that people would think, oh, that's
an indicator.
we got to get out,
Yeah,
run for the hills. I don't think so. I don't
yeah,
think so. Things get overheated in this hobby, and that proved it. When it gets overheated, then people go to other things. So then there's less demand, the price falls, then the price gets to a more reasonable level, and then people say, hey, that's looking like a good deal now. It used to sell for this, now it's only this. I think I'll go for it. So, but it doesn't affect me. I'm in
yeah,
fact, I've chosen my lane, John, because I don't want to wake up or have a sleepless night. I sleep great. I just
yeah,
enjoy. I enjoy. I'm not. I'm buying interesting cards that are interesting to me without worrying about the value.
yeah. That's what it should be about, right there. It's what
Well,
we're both.
it's my lane.
Yeah,
Some people really want brag worthy, flexing cards, and I already have a bunch of those.
yeah.
Um,
You're an early flexor, is what you just said.
I was an early flexor. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding with you. All right, we're coming down the home stretch here. We're in double digits away and approaching fast, right? The national in Chicago, back in Chicago for this year and the next two under the new leadership group. You've never missed one of these things. Do you like that it's in Chicago 3 years in a row? Like I like to see it move around, me personally, but I haven't been to as many as you have. So your thoughts on just being in the same venue. And Chicago is arguably the best one. So I guess if you're gonna have it in the same venue, I mean Chicago's not a bad place. It's central, central region of the United States. Kind of your thoughts on the location, at least.
Over the years, I've been asked many times to be on the national committee, the board of trustees, whatever it is, and I've declined. I don't really want to do that. I don't think that
Why? Let me start out. What?
it's just because it's a political position.
Yeah,
I mean, I have opinions, but the national is of the people, by the people, for the people, and really mainly dealers. The dealers vote on where it's going to be,
yeah,
and so I don't lose a lot of sleep about things I can't control. And Chicago, again, if Chicago was a terrible thing and it was railroaded into Chicago, that's different than Chicago really was. The argument is, why not have Chicago every year? I don't want that. But if
yeah,
in doubt, unless something has the potential to be better than Chicago, and I'm frankly not sure Detroit or Atlanta are going to be better than Chicago, but they might be really good. And we've got to try something besides Chicago in whatever that is, 2029, 2028, whatever the year is that we got to go somewhere else. And but it might be if there's a drop off from 3 years in a row Chicago, and then we go to Atlanta, which I think is the front runner, and it's a 10% drop off, we're going to be back in Chicago for the rest of our lives, John. If Atlanta isn't a really exciting, huge show that justifies leaving Chicago. So we'll see.
So you're saying if it is Atlanta in 4 years and the show doesn't live up in the same zip code as Chicago's performance, that might seal the deal where it just becomes Chicago every year?
No, I'm not saying that because the way it is structured is the vote for the 2029 or the next one will be before the Atlanta show has occurred.
Yeah.
And so we won't know that. And so
Okay,
when
I
we're
got you.
going to the next one, it's probably going to be Chicago versus Detroit or Atlanta, whichever one didn't win. And maybe there's some other uh, Anaheim, or
What about you? I mean, I'll put you on. What about Dallas? Obviously it's a hobby hotbed. There's a lot of companies there. Like why not Dallas
uh,
again?
it's been in Anaheim. Yeah, I mean, it's been in Arlington, which
Yeah,
is a suburb of
yeah,
Dallas. I don't think Kyle wants that or should want that. It's not. It doesn't help him. He's already got the prominence. He's already got the relationships. It's. I don't. He's already doing some regional things. I don't think it's in his best interest to it's so disruptive, John. I mean, I was part of a bid committee once or twice, and there's so many moving parts and so many people you have to please. It's a lot can go wrong. You've got a lot, like I said, a lot of people to please, important people to please. And so I don't think it's going to go back to Dallas. I mean,
yeah,
Kyle is just doing great. He's just hitting grand slams every 2 months and doing pop-up shows whenever he feels like he's in strong control of this market. And he's
yeah.
doing shows in Chicago and other places. So he's got his hands full. Um, I, I just, I don't know that it's going to go to Philly or Baltimore or something. It's just, again, it's not my call. I guess, I don't usually vote. I can vote because I've from so many years of being, having tables
Set
or
up.
dealer priority, I would get a vote. But again, I'm pretty retired. I think
Yeah,
the dealers that vote, they're the ones that are there. They show up, they listen to the presentations. They've already made up their mind in most cases based on what's best for them. And that's just the way the system is set up.
you
Now,
think we've seen the last national at Atlantic City and Cleveland?
I think it's the last one in Cleveland for sure. I put money on that because they're shutting down the IX Center.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But
Yeah,
Atlantic City, they already had not an illegal inducement, but a significant inducement last time, and it didn't really work. I mean, you can't
yeah,
put a price on safety. Uh,
yeah,
Atlantic City's just not. I think the facility was great, And the proximity was great, but getting 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away was not a no-brainer, after
Yeah.
dark.
Speaking of shows, I wanted to ask you this. It's a question I've never asked you before. You've wore obviously a lot of hats in the hobby. Dealer, you own an LCS. Obviously, you started back at the company. Were you ever a show promoter, or and if you weren't, were you almost?
Yeah, but yes and yes. No, I've promoted shows. I've been a show whatever organizer. Gervis and I did the first show in Dallas. And
Okay,
we did a couple, but it was more his thing than mine. But that was fine. And then I was part of the bid in '86 maybe, where we lost, and I'm glad we lost. I'm glad we lost. I think we were not. When I look at our committee and how we laid it out, we had a great sound plan, but we were not. We didn't emphasize marketing as much. We
yeah,
emphasized the organizational, the structure, the how well run it would be, and we didn't get the votes. We came in second, and I'm glad we did. That it would have been disruptive to all of
yeah,
our lives of us on the committee, and we weren't full time promoters. It requires a full time promoter now,
yeah,
and it did
yeah,
then. And I got pulled into it because I was close friends with the guys who were doing it, and it just wasn't, and it was simpler in those days, but still complicated.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, Dr. Jim, as always, this is a blast. It's been fun. Uh, Again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing those insights. Real quick, give out your podcast, Sports Card Insights, but anything else you wanna?
That's
Is
it. When
that
people
right?
want to see me, they can either, I mean, I get some mail occasionally, I get some email occasionally, I get some, YouTube and podcast bounce backs, but I don't do social media. I'm
Yeah,
pretty visible at the shows I go to. I go to all the Dallas shows and the
yeah,
national, and people can find me. And if they can't find me, they can find one of my wingmen, which you occasionally have been to as well. So I mean, I don't try to be scarce, but I don't try to knock on every door.
yeah,
So I just it's fun to to have some social stuff in the evening that's more pure social. And the
yeah,
mornings, I hit the tables real hard. Afternoon,
yeah,
I can wander a little bit, but and then the evenings are for some nice dinners that get away from the cards.
yeah. I agree. I'm
That's my
waving
formula.
that
That's my
same
formula, and it's almost every year now for 40 whatever it's been 44, 45 nationals.
40. This would be what 45, I think.
45, I think, because it's 46th. It would have been the 46th, but
But then the COVID cancellation. Yeah.
and they
Well, listen, it's not far away now. We're every day we're one day closer to it. I look forward to it for many of the reasons you just said, and another one. I get to see you in person and talk to you here
likewise,
often. And
likewise.
so, Dr. Jim, as always, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, John.